A billionaire who had money, houses, and power. But in one tragic night, he lost everything that truly mattered. His wife and his daughter. His only son, once full of dreams, was trapped in a wheelchair, hopeless and broken. Until a poor maid walked into their home with nothing but a gentle smile and a song on her lips. What happened next will leave you in tears and remind you that miracles sometimes come from the most unexpected places. Mr. Raymond was a very rich man. He had big houses, many cars, and was the CEO of one of the biggest real estate companies in Abuja, Nigeria. But what he loved the most was his family. His wife, Linda, was gentle and beautiful. She smiled a lot and always took care of everyone in the house. They had 2 lovely children, David, a smart boy who loved playing football, and Chidinma, a sweet girl who loved music and dolls. David played football so well that he joined an under-14 football club called Unity Stars FC. Every Saturday, his mom would drive him to the football field for training. Chidinma always followed them because she didn't like being left at home. One sunny Saturday morning, Linda dressed up David and Chidinma and told Mr. Raymond, "We're off to training." Mr. Raymond kissed his wife. "Be safe," he said, waving at them. But something terrible happened. On their way to the football field, Linda's car lost control. The tires screamed. The brakes failed. The car hit a pole with a loud bang. People rushed to help. Blood was everywhere. An ambulance came quickly and carried them to the hospital. When Mr. Raymond got the phone call, his phone fell from his hand. "Your wife, your daughter, they didn't make it," the voice on the phone said. "What? What are you saying?" he screamed. He ran to the hospital like a madman, heart racing, mind shaking. At the hospital, a nurse met him with red eyes. "Sir, I'm so sorry, your wife died at the scene. Your daughter, she passed away at the intensive care unit." Mr. Raymond screamed. He fell on the hospital floor, crying like a baby. He beat the floor with his fist. "My Linda, my Chidinma." But then the nurse added, "Your son David, he's alive. He's in the emergency ward." Mr. Raymond stood quickly and ran to the emergency room. There, he saw his son, lying on the hospital bed, eyes closed, bandages on his head and arms. His legs were not moving. Mr. Raymond fell to his knees and held David's hand. "My son, please come back to me," he cried, loudly, bitterly. David was still sleeping. He didn't know that his life was about to change forever. 3 days later, David slowly opened his eyes. The lights above him were white and bright. The room smelled like medicine. He turned his head slowly and saw his dad. "Daddy." Mr. Raymond jumped up. "David, David, you awake?" He hugged his son tightly. David blinked. "Where's Mummy? And Chidinma?" Mr. Raymond froze. Tears filled his eyes again. "David, they in heaven now." David's lips trembled. No, Daddy, you're lying." He began to cry. His small body shook. "No, I want my mummy. I want Chidinma." Mr. Raymond held him close and cried with him. The room was filled with pain. Later that day, the doctor came in. She was a kind woman with soft eyes. Her name was Dr. Esther. She looked at David gently and said, "David, I'm happy you woke up. But we have to tell you something." David wiped his tears. "What?" Dr. Esther knelt beside the bed and spoke slowly. "Your legs are not moving because your spine got hurt in the accident. Right now, your lower limbs are paralyzed." David blinked. "What does that mean?" Mr. Raymond explained softly. "It means you can't walk right now." David's mouth fell open. No, I want to walk. I want to play football again." He cried louder. He shook his head and screamed. No. Dr. Esther held his hand. David, don't give up. If your spinal cord is not fully damaged, we can work on it. You can still walk again. There's hope. But David was broken. His heart was shattered. The boy who used to run fast on the football field now couldn't even feel his legs. 2 weeks later, David was brought home from the hospital. But everything had changed. The big house that used to be full of laughter was now very quiet. No more Mummy singing in the kitchen. No more Chidinma running around with her dolls. No more sweet smell of Mummy's food. Only silence. David was now in a wheelchair. He stayed inside his room all day. He didn't talk much. He didn't eat much. He didn't smile. He was sad. Very, very sad. His daddy, Mr. Raymond, tried to talk to him every day. My son, how are you feeling today? David would just shrug or whisper, I'm fine. But deep down, he was not fine. Mr. Raymond wanted his son to get better fast. So he called Dr. Esther, the doctor who treated David. Please, recommend the best physiotherapist, Mr. Raymond said. Dr. Esther smiled. Don't worry, I'll send you the best. His name is Dr. Musa. 2 days later, Dr. Musa came to the house. He was tall, kind, and always smiling. He started working with David. They did exercises. They massaged his legs. They stretched his feet. They even used machines. David, try to lift your left foot, Dr. Musa would say. But nothing moved. Week after week, month after month, they kept trying. Mr. Raymond stayed home for a while. He wanted to be around his son. But after some weeks, he had to go back to work. Still, he made sure to be present during therapy sessions. 1 year later, David was still in the wheelchair. No real improvement. No movement from his legs. No sign of change. One day, after another long therapy session, Mr. Raymond called Dr. Musa aside. His face looked tired and sad. Doctor, why is there no change? He asked. It's been 1 year. Dr. Musa looked worried too. Sir, I'm surprised as well. Everything inside his body looks fine. His nerves, his muscles, they are all okay. He should be able to stand by now. Mr. Raymond frowned. Then why can't he? Dr. Musa sighed. Sometimes, it's not just the body. Sometimes, it's the mind. Maybe he's afraid. Or maybe, he's still too sad to try. Mr. Raymond looked down. He understood. David was still broken on the inside. Dr. Musa touched his shoulder. But I won't give up. I believe he will walk again. He just needs the right push. Mr. Raymond nodded slowly. But inside, he was tired. Tired of waiting. Tired of watching his son suffer. That night, he stood in front of his wife's photo. He looked at her soft smile and whispered, Linda, I don't know what else to do. Please, help me. Just then, his phone rang. It was the Maid agency. Hello, sir, the woman said. The new housemaid you requested will arrive tomorrow. Mr. Raymond wiped his eyes and replied, Thank you. I'll be waiting. The next morning, the new housemaid arrived. Her name was Joyce. She was a beautiful woman in her early 30s. She had come from the village to find work in Abuja city. This was her first job. Joyce was humble. She greeted everyone with a smile. She worked hard. She cleaned every corner of the house and made sure everything was neat. Before she arrived, the agency had already told her what happened to Mr. Raymond's family. So when she met David, she was extra gentle. Good morning, David, she greeted kindly. David didn't reply. He just stared at the wall. Joyce wasn't angry. She understood. One afternoon, while cleaning the living room, Joyce began to hum a song. It was a lullaby, a sweet song her mother used to sing to her as a child. She always hummed when doing chores. It made her feel happy. But she didn't know someone was listening. David was by the window in his wheelchair, staring at the trees outside. The moment he heard the song, he froze. That song, it sounded familiar. His eyes widened. That's Mummy's song. He remembered. His mum used to sing it in the kitchen while cooking. She sang it when he was sad. She sang it when Chidinma couldn't sleep. And whenever she sang, David would dance. His legs would move to the beat. His feet would tap the floor. And now, that same song was playing again. David didn't even think. His head started bobbing. Then his shoulders moved. Then, something happened. His legs twitched. First the left, then the right. Very small movements. But they moved. He didn't even know he was doing it. He was lost in the music. In that moment, Mr. Raymond walked into the living room. He froze at the door. His eyes grew big. David was moving his legs. Not much, but he was. Mr. Raymond didn't say a word. He just stood there, watching, smiling. Tears filled his eyes. He didn't want to stop the moment. He didn't want to scare them. So he quietly stepped back and walked away. But in his heart, something jumped. Hope. For the first time in a long time, Mr. Raymond felt it again. His son might walk again. And it all started with a simple song. The next morning, the sun rose slowly over the house. The air was fresh. David sat by the window in his wheelchair, just like always. But today, he wasn't just looking outside. He was waiting. He didn't even know why, but something inside him wanted to hear the song again. The song that made him feel alive. Soon, Joyce, his kind housemaid, started her morning chores. She picked up the broom. She tied her scarf. And then, softly, she began to hum her sweet lullaby. David smiled. He whispered to himself, "That's the song." He didn't even plan it, but his body started to move again. His shoulders rocked a little. His head bobbed to the beat. And then, his knees twitched. His legs moved. Slowly. But they moved. It wasn't strong, but it was real. Upstairs, Mr. Raymond was already dressed for work. He wore a white shirt and black trousers, but he wasn't in a hurry to leave. For the past few days, he had been quietly observing his son each morning, watching David respond to the gentle songs Joyce sang. He did this in secret, careful not to let either Joyce or David notice him. And each time he watched, he witnessed something beautiful. David's legs were moving again. This started over the weekend. Now it was Wednesday, David's therapy day. Later that afternoon, Dr. Musa came in for David's session. He looked cheerful as always. But today, something was different. As he examined David's legs and asked him to try small movements, he noticed something new. David's legs were responding. Dr. Musa smiled wide. "David, you've improved a lot." Mr. Raymond stood nearby. "What do you mean?" Dr. Musa replied, "I can feel the muscles. He's trying. His legs are waking up. The nerves are active. This is real progress." Mr. Raymond was so happy, he almost told Dr. Musa what had been happening. He wanted to say, "The secret to these changes is the housemaid song." But he paused. He didn't want to sound silly. Instead, he smiled and shook Dr. Musa's hand. "Thank you, Doctor. Thank you for not giving up." The next morning, as usual, Joyce began her chores early. She dusted the TV shelf and quietly hummed her favorite lullaby as she worked. Then suddenly, she heard a sound, a small movement. She turned quickly and saw David. He was smiling. His shoulders were dancing. His knees were shaking. His legs were moving. Joyce gasped loudly, "David, you're moving your legs again." David looked down at his legs. They were still now, but he felt something strong inside him. "I didn't even try," he said slowly. "It just happened." Joyce walked closer, smiling with joy. "This is wonderful. Just like the doctor said, You're getting better." She dropped the duster and knelt beside him. "Can I help you dance?" David frowned. "Dance? But I'm in a wheelchair." Joyce looked into his eyes gently. "I know. But when you hear music, your body moves. That means something inside you wants to dance. Dr. Musa said your body is okay now. Your mind just needs to believe." David looked at her eyes. They were warm, full of hope, full of love. He nodded slowly. "Okay, let's try." Joyce smiled brightly. "Let's play some music." She went to the speaker and turned it on. "Pick a song you love," she said. David picked a happy tune he used to dance to with his sister, Chidinma. The room filled with soft, joyful music. Joyce held David's hands gently. "Now, move your shoulders," she said. He did. "Rock left and right," she added. He laughed. "Like this?" "Yes," Joyce said with a giggle. And David laughed loudly for the first time in a very long time. They moved their bodies slowly. And then, David's knees began to move again. But this time, they moved faster. His legs twitched more. His feet tapped the floor. He was dancing, even though he was still in his wheelchair. His whole body was dancing with joy. It wasn't pain. It wasn't fear. It was happiness. Meanwhile, Mr. Raymond was on a business call upstairs. But then, he heard something. Laughter. His heart jumped. He dropped the phone. He rushed downstairs like a man chasing something precious. He got to the living room and stood quietly at the door. What he saw made his eyes fill with tears. David was smiling. David was laughing. David was dancing. And his legs were moving clearly. Joyce was beside him, holding his hands, singing softly, helping him spin in the wheelchair. Mr. Raymond didn't move. He didn't speak. He didn't want to stop the moment. He just stood there, with his hand over his chest, watching his son come back to life. And for the first time since the accident, he believed again. His son would walk. And it all started with a housemaid song. That evening, Mr. Raymond sat alone in his study. His face was calm, but his heart was full. He had seen his son laugh again. He had seen him dance. He had seen his legs move. Something was happening. Something big. Something beautiful. He picked up the phone and called the house guard. "Please tell Joyce to come to my study." A few minutes later, there was a soft knock on the door. "Knock, knock." "Come in," Mr. Raymond said. Joyce opened the door gently and stepped in. Her hands were held together in front of her skirt. She looked shy and quiet. "Sir, good evening," she greeted softly. Mr. Raymond looked up and gave her a warm smile. "Joyce, thank you." Joyce looked surprised. "Thank you for what, sir?" Mr. Raymond's voice became calm and soft. "For giving my son a reason to smile again." Joyce lowered her eyes. "I only sang, sir," she said quietly. "I didn't know it would help him." Mr. Raymond stood up slowly. He looked into her eyes and said, "Sometimes, the things that help the most are the simple things, done with love." Joyce smiled gently. She didn't know what to say, so she just nodded. Then, she turned to leave. But just before she reached the door, Mr. Raymond spoke again. His voice was quiet, but deep. "I believe you were sent to this house for a reason." Joyce stopped. She didn't say anything, but deep inside her heart, she felt the same way too. From that day, David began to change. He started talking more. He didn't hide in his room anymore. Every morning, he rolled himself into the living room in his wheelchair, smiling. "Morning, Daddy," he would say to Mr. Raymond, his eyes bright and full of life. Mr. Raymond's heart felt warm every time he heard his son's voice again. Even Joyce noticed the change. David now laughed at her jokes. He asked her questions. He even teased her sometimes. The house that once felt cold was full of life again. At his therapy sessions with Dr. Musa, David also worked harder. Before, he used to be quiet and tired. But now, he was ready. He wanted to move. He wanted to walk. He wanted to live again. One sunny morning, Dr. Musa smiled and said, "David, today I want you to try and stand." David looked a little scared. His hands shook. He took a deep breath. But he nodded and whispered, "I'll try." Dr. Musa gently held his hands. "Take your time, slowly now." David pushed down with all his strength. His legs trembled. He held his breath. And then, slowly, he stood up, all by himself. The whole room went quiet. Then, everyone clapped and cheered. Dr. Musa shouted with joy, "David, you did it. This is real progress. Well done." David laughed loudly and said, "It's because Joyce gave me magic rice this morning." Everyone burst into laughter. Even Joyce, who had been standing at the door, smiled and said, "Then you better eat it every day now." Later that afternoon, Mr. Raymond came home early from work. He didn't even know why, he just felt like being home. As he walked through the gate, he heard soft laughter. He followed the sound. And when he got to the balcony, he saw something that melted his heart. David and Joyce were sitting outside. They were talking and laughing like best friends. David was saying, "When I walk again, I'll go back to the football field. I'll wear my boots and score plenty goals." Joyce clapped her hands. "I'll be your #1 fan. I'll scream your name from the crowd." They both laughed again. Mr. Raymond stood by the door. He didn't say anything. He didn't move. He just stood there, smiling, watching, crying. But they weren't sad tears. They were happy tears. Tears from a heart that was slowly healing. He had lost his wife. He had lost his daughter. But now, he had found hope again. And it all started with a kind woman who walked into his home with nothing but a gentle smile, a caring heart, and a song on her lips. Days turned into weeks. Weeks turned into months. And every day, David grew stronger. He could now take small steps with support. He laughed more. He dreamed more. And most importantly, he believed again. Through it all, Joyce was always there, encouraging him, cheering him on, singing those songs that made him feel alive. One cool evening, Mr. Raymond sat quietly on the balcony. He was watching the sunset when Joyce walked past, carrying a tray of juice for David. For the first time, Mr. Raymond looked at her differently. She wasn't just a maid anymore. She was the reason his son smiled. The reason his home was warm again. The reason his broken heart was slowly healing. "Joyce," he called softly. She turned, a little surprised. "Yes, so." He smiled. "I just want to say, thank you. Not for cleaning my house. Not for cooking my food. But for restoring life into this home." Joyce lowered her eyes shyly. "So, I only did what I could." Mr. Raymond shook his head gently. "No, you did more than that. God sent you here for a reason, and I will forever be grateful." Her eyes grew moist. She quickly wiped them with her scarf. Just then, David ran out, walking slowly with his crutches. "Daddy, look. I can take 10 steps now." Mr. Raymond jumped up, his heart bursting with joy. He hugged his son tightly. Joyce stood behind, smiling with tears in her eyes. And in that moment, Mr. Raymond knew. He had lost a wife. He had lost a daughter. But God, in His mercy, had given him something new. A reason to hope. A reason to smile. A reason to live again. And it all started with a simple song. From a humble woman, who carried healing in her voice. Moral lessons. Sometimes, healing doesn't come from medicine alone. It comes from love, kindness, and simple acts of care. Never underestimate the power of music and joy. They can revive a broken soul. When life takes away something precious, God can send new people to restore hope. A broken family can find strength again through love, patience, and faith.